Right, welcome everybody to Start Crying. First event in 18 months. Who was in our last event, February, January last year? We met.
I'm very embarrassed, but thank you.
You're not going to be embarrassed anymore in the event. I'm the one getting embarrassed all the time. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Are you nervous?
A bit.
How many times have you been welcomed on stage as a rock star?
Twice with this one.
What was the first one?
But you know, I must be said that I used to be an actress in my previous life, so not a very good one though. But I have a couple of nice moments in my career, so.
No, can you explain when were you welcomed on stage as a rock star? Like with standing innovation and everything? Was it in one of your performances or plays?
Because I've been directing theater for like 7 years. So, well, when you actually go and broadcast the last play put on stage, I was also the practitioner. So yeah, that's a nice moment because there are your mother, your father, your cousins, your children. They all applaud big for you.
All right. Let's kick it out by introducing Inviertis to the audience, because I know Inviertis very well. For full disclosure, I'm also an investor in the company, but they might not know what Inviertis is and why should they use it.
Because you eventually will get rich with your startups, and you probably have to invest.
After this event.
Yeah, after this event. Basically what we have is a platform for real estate investors, and what we are doing is taking properties that have tenants, we analyze them and present them as a financial product on a fully transactional platform so that anyone from anywhere can buy a property in literally 3 clicks. That's what we do.
All right. How did you come up with this idea? Like, basically, for those new to the to the event, we don't focus that much on the what. We focus so much on the how you're doing things, right? So, how did you come up with the idea? What made you think that it was a viable business, and probably it was not in the beginning? How did you turn it into one?
Well, I have to go very back.
Let's go.
But basically, I was taking my second career. As I said, my first one, I used to be an actress. And there's a moment I realized I wasn't a good actor, so I wasn't going to make my living out of it. And then I took my second career in business administration and innovation management. That part was very important, although I didn't know at that time. At that moment, I was teaching, and so I could start introducing, kind of innovation techniques, digitalizing processes in companies in my hometown. And at some moment, I came up with this problem. I had a flat with tenants I needed to sell and couldn't find a way to do so. And in parallel, I was taking a marketing subject at university. So first thing I did was the marketing project of Inviertis. And yeah.
So you're eating your own dog's food, right? Or they say, like, scratch your own itches.
Yeah.
And that's how you convince I don't know, if you start with a co-founder or not, or investors, we're going to be doing that, but like, how did you convince other people to join your project based on something that you had validated with yourself?
I think it's something that comes natural when you speak to people. If you speak to people and you explain them what you are, and eventually they join you. I don't know. I think I was very convincing.
What did you have? Like, was it like something very appealing in the product, or something compelling for them to join? Right?
There was a time I thought I could run my own. How do you say in English? Mi secta?
Yeah.
My own religion.
Cult.
Yeah. Because there was a time I was convincing people and didn't really know how. Now maybe I can have my own religion and convince them to pay me in a house or whatever. Because I was very convincing. But no, I guess I did things very little by little and in small pieces. So for example, when I started in this marketing subject, for instance, I started testing in 25 years in Facebook. I built a WordPress linking advertising from Idealista, from Avitalia listing, another listing for websites. I was testing little by little. So by the time, for example, I met my first co-founder, Sonia Villanova, I had something. I had a first website, I had already proven first client, I had already maybe 10 to 12 properties in the marketplace. I have been doing that by myself and 2 internships. One guy as administrator and another one helping me with the website.
I was going to go into that. It's like, because I know that you have bootstrapped Inviertis for pretty much your entire career.
Too long, probably.
Too long. How did you make it work? Like in the beginning, where did you get the resources from, to pay for the servers for the website? You were not paying salaries because you had intern. You were probably not paying yourself a salary, right? Can you go into a little bit of detail about how to make ends meet?
First of all, having a loving and caring husband helps. That was my case. I was working though. I kept working all the way until last November. So it's not yet a year that I stopped working. I was working 8 hours at Inviertis and finishing, and from 6 to 10 at night, I was working on a different job so that I could pay my startup. It was like feeding a child, actually. I asked for a loan for the first 20,000 euros. So I started developing and I could hire a business administrator and things like this, administrative.
Yeah.
And then I started paying the campaigns. I quit smoking and I paid my first AdWords campaign, for instance. So you basically, what we do is pick your own resources and you spare the money. You think, okay, this is for the startup. At the moment, you don't even think of a startup, of a business, of anything. You are testing and you are learning, and whatever happens, you will learn. Actually, when I took the decision of starting up Inviertis, it was like, okay, whatever it happens, I learn a lot. It's an expensive master, actually.
Exactly, and one of the things I think it's most difficult to kind of like calibrate is when you're working on your main job and then you have this side project, right? But it seems that you went the other way around. Usually you keep your steady job and then you work at nights on your startup. You did the other way around. Why was it?
Because I could manage.
All right.
Because I could manage because of timetables, basically. It was something that went very gradual. I must say that until the lockdown came and I was forced to quit any hours, any working hours outside, I didn't really got the switch to put all my energy, all my time, all my thoughts, because wherever you have in a job that you master and you need very little time to prepare, you have to be there. Sometimes you cannot attend a fair, sometimes you cannot travel, sometimes you cannot continue working in the office, and sometimes you take it from your sleep. Most of the time you take it from your sleep and from your health. I was like kind of 2 years working 40 hours at Inviertis, 20 hours at the other job, and then finishing the other job, taking the children to sleep, and then taking the computer up to 3 o'clock in the morning. There's a moment that it is very difficult to keep the balance.
Exactly. I was going to go for how long. Let's put like in a timeline perspective. So when did you start a company, and for how long did you have to do the 2 jobs?
I may get a bit emotional here.
It's all right.
I finished my second degree on October 2017. Okay. Then I took a working space, one internship, 2 guys that started helping me. And then in April 2018, my child was heart transplanted. It was my eldest. It was super hard because everything went wrong. We were in the UCI, unit care, the intensive unit care, for 4 months. So the project stopped. I sent the 2 guys I had in the office home. And actually, I had met Sonia only a couple of days before, and we were called for the operation. And when we went out of hospital, Sonia was still there. So we caught up and we met at the office, and then we started all over. So we're talking now about September 2018, when I met with my co-founder, with Sonia, and we started pushing. By the end of the year, we already had like 40, this is a very important KPI for me. We had about 40 properties in the market, the first investor approaches. We started, kind of think, what's the startup, how it does it look like, what we should we do? And then we founded the company in January 2019. So for me, the business kind of started there at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first things first, right? Health first and family first, and then, business can come along. But it seems that you really, it was hard for you in the beginning because, making the ends meet financially and juggling between the two jobs and everything, health problems and whatnot, then finding a co-founder, right? Personal balance, can we talk a little bit like that burnout? You mentioned you were working a lot, right? How did that, the main problem with burnout or doing all-nighters and then, saying I'm super motivated working on my startup, but the next day, the problem comes the next day, right? So it's kind of like a short run. It's good for today, it's very short-sighted, but then in the long term, it's really detrimental to your startup. How did you battle this?
But you get milestones, and every time you hit a milestone, and every time you prove something right, and every time you see something's working, you push harder. And then your own work and getting towards objectives that you set yourself makes you push further. I must say that only during the time my child was in hospital, I thought of giving up, and it was at the super beginning. But of course, sometimes you struggle with money, because when you are not earning money from your startup and you're working somewhere else, not as many hours as you should, there's a moment that your savings and everything, and when you cope with a mortgage, a family, this is probably the most difficult part, explaining to your husband why you broke.
Right. But I was going to say, it begs the questions why didn't you quit then? Everybody else would have quit.
No, it's not true. I'm sure no one in this room would, because you see that there is something there. You believe, and you see there are believers around you. You're not crazy. Huh? This is important. When you see that clients come, people are respecting what you're doing, you get kind of visibility within the sector, and the customers come, and the people approach the project. Hey, this is good. This is working. You think, okay, there's a thing in here. I have to keep on working in here because there's a thing, and because no one done it before, and that's very exciting, actually.
There are two things that I think that might have motivated you to go the extra mile. One of them is, as a solo founder, one of the best tricks is to sort of set these KPIs and milestones, right? Because there's no one else around to cheer you. And I know I've tried several things alone, never worked, right? But maybe they work for you because you didn't quit. And I think the second one, and you're gonna tell me about that, but I saw an interview in which you were saying I was going to events and I was the only woman there.
Yeah.
Did you want to prove the world that you could do it instead of being only man in the audience? Or
maybe people expect that, yes, but no. I've never felt myself. I could realize, because it's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, the first event I attended within the PropTech sector, I was one out of three. There were 3 women out of 100. There were more waitresses than female founders. But I must say that I kind of understand what's going on about female founders. It's super hard. You have to sacrifice a lot, and maybe people aren't willing to do so. And I've never felt, I never felt less because of being a woman, or men treating me like being less because of that. Actually, I've been lucky enough to never have that feeling. Apart from people with guys whistling you down in the street, from that part, but within the business, never.
All right, then let's concentrate on the KPIs part because, I mean, your only background seems to be in business, seems to be this business administration studies that you had, right? So how did you know which KPIs to set and what milestones to define?
While I was studying performing arts, I was also leading a import department. I always been working and studying since I was I was fired from the boarding school. My father.
That's why I know it's gonna happen. That's why I know it's gonna work.
Yeah. So no, I always managed to have 2 jobs, and actually I was in lead of it was a small company but high performing one. But in any case, it depends on the sector, and you have to read a lot. You read, you study, I don't know, I would say I read a lot.
But like business books, is there any book that you want to recommend? Is it like blogs, podcasts?
Yeah, during 1 year on my bedside table, I had Steve Blank's book.
All right.
Yeah, and getting back, and yes, for me it was I knew it by heart. Actually, I learned it by heart.
Let's talk about the team, right? So you met your co-founder, but like one of the worst parts of hiring a co-founder is having to sort of split the business, right? You cannot give them a salary in the beginning.
No, you can't.
You're gonna give them shares, which are worth less, right? You're selling them a promise. You're selling them a promise. What did you give her, and what was the negotiation like? Have you done this kind of negotiation before?
No.
Right.
No, we had no idea of what a permanent agreement meant, and the truth is that I think Sonia was super generous with her time and with her job, with her work actually. Now that I am more into the startup world, I see these things are more expensive, and I see the value of it. I could have had an early advisor that asked me for a 10% of the campaign.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said, no, I'm not going to work in there. I'm going to meet you like 1 hour, 2 hours a month, and I'm asking you for the 10% of the campaign. I knew shit about startups, but though I'm going to give him like 10% out of my work for the rest of 5 years. Okay, that was a decision. Yet I check with a lot of people from the startup world, teachers at university, because since you don't know what the environment is like, you better check. Maybe you are the crazy one, but no, I found out that I wasn't crazy, it was right, and I never took him as an advisor.
Who did you contact as an advisor because first-time entrepreneurs usually don't have the network. That's why second-time entrepreneurs, third-time entrepreneurs are more likely to be successful. It's because they already know the things that shouldn't be done. And they already know the things that they don't know, right? So, but the first company you create is like, I need advice on this, but I don't know anybody in this sector. I don't know anybody who's an expert in marketing, email campaigns, share splitting, negotiation with B2B clients. Who did you contact? How did you grow your first network?
Attending events. This is something that being a woman helped me out, to be honest, because people invited me. Probably if I had been a male, I would have more competition and they would
to pay for the ticket.
Yeah, pay for the ticket. No, it's not about getting for free or not, which is a thing when you are a very humble startup. But going to events, talking to people, listening to people, and connecting dots between people, even when you have no interest or economical or whatever in it.
Yeah.
Many times I think that if I had known what I know now about networking, I would have probably success as an actress, being honest, because it's the base. It's the base of growing a business. I mean, for me, if I hadn't been able to master network, I want to say it that way, okay, I think I wouldn't have been able to reach the point I am with a startup right now.
The persistence, right? And that was going to be my next question: is what things did you learn as an actress that you have taken into the startup world as an entrepreneur?
To communicate efficiently.
Right.
I mean, this is basic. I mean, you can have the greatest idea of them all and not being able to communicate. So then you have very little in your head. And this is actually what many founders come across with, that they have to learn to communicate. For me, this is the easiest part, or being here or attending events as a speaker. I've never been shy. I can improvise a lot because I was trained for that actually, and that helps. Yeah.
No, because I was going to say, like, part of being an entrepreneur, especially a CEO, is you need to own the narrative of your startup, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like public speaking, which in Spain we don't really get that as a subject in school, right?
No, we
So-
don't, and it's a pity.
It's a pity.
It's a pity. I actually founded the theatre group at the university when I started the second degree because I realized of this.
Really?
Yeah,
So you're
because
thinking of business already.
well, I
you want
thought
to-
that I was, because obviously I was a late student. I was 30 years old. I had one child. I got pregnant with my second one during that career. And I was in class with 18, 19, 20-year-old children.
Yeah.
For me, you know. And then what I realized is that they couldn't speak. They were doing a business administration degree where they would be great leaders probably of their departments, their companies, whatever. How were they going to communicate or to speak to the employees, for example? And that's why I founded the theatre group at Techno Campus.
And how did you learn how to negotiate? Which is another thing that, we underestimate when we go into business. It's like, people will come, I'll tell them a price and they will pay and that's gonna work. It's like, no, that's literally not how it works. So how have you learned how to communicate the difficult decisions, having rough conversations with clients, team, co-founder?
I learned negotiating long before I started. As I said, when I was running, I was in charge of production and I had to negotiate with people from India and from China. So that was very hard. But when you negotiate, you must know what you are negotiating, what the prices, the fair prices are, and respect the other one you have in front of you, and make yourself respect. So I think this is very important that you know what you are negotiating and what's the price. Now, there are some times, especially when it comes to the company valuation, the startup valuation. Yeah, it's
5
super
million.
difficult.
5 million.
Super difficult. Or impossible. At the end, you do something like what I am willing to give away of shares and how much money do I need to get to the next stage or to run smoothly the company.
So it seems like, from what I'm hearing, is that you have been learning a lot on your own. You are a self-taught person, right?
Yeah.
Although you have your fair amount of advisors and like people of trust around the company. However, everybody fucks up a lot. Let's talk about fuck-ups.
Okay.
Are you ready to share fuck-ups?
I
I can
guess.
share mine if you want. I've had so many, I could bore you to tears. But what are like some remarkable fuck-ups that you did in the beginning because you were a first-time entrepreneur? Like something, if you had to give away the 10% of the company to the advisor, that would be the fuck-up problem.
Yeah.
Things like that. Which ones have you done?
I'm not going to say that I haven't mistaken because I have probably a lot, but every time I learn from a mistake, I don't consider it such as fuck up. Okay.
But it was for a brief period of time. It was.
Saying no, for example, I learned that information it's very important to manage the information confidentially.
Yeah.
And when you are a small startup, you want to show that you are bigger than you are. And you maybe speak about things that are very little, and you kind of exaggerate them a little, and sometimes you can get in trouble. And there was one that for me was very remarkable, and that I still think it and feel super ashamed plus embarrassed.
Let's go into that.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
There is a learning there, a very big one. Well, we were going, there is a moment right before the lockdown that I realized that I had to go B2B. And then I started trying to reach super big companies to bring properties into our marketplace. Here we call them SOCIMIs or services. and English rates, for instance, or the ones that are working for banks that own properties, okay? And I was speaking like one of the biggest. They noticed our company in an Esale challenge, so they were willing to work with us. We started negotiating, and at that moment I had a PR that was, releasing press notes so that we could get some sound, get some whatever. And I don't really know, but I think it was me, being honest, speaking to a journalist that I said, yeah, we have an agreement with X.
All right.
Following day, but incredibly, all the press within the sector, Inviertis, well, XXX, because obviously the big name goes before, got an agreement with a PropTech Inviertis. XX called me. Yeah, but called me and nearly told me, you are a girl, a baby girl. Can you go speaking about this because the reputation, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't get to work with them. The agreement, yes. Now we are working with them.
What happened? How did you do that? I didn't know that. Okay. How did you make it?
To work finally with them.
Yeah. How did you compensate? How did you,
Hello, to another one, hello, to another one, hello. And getting to know the key people at the key moment, which is not easy. Since I'm being asked to go into as a opinion leader in my sector because I'm a lady and whatever. Sometimes you get hurt, and then some other people come over you, and then you find another LinkedIn profile to hey, hello. And now we got the agreement. We are working. We're doing well, but I cannot do a press note anymore.
I'm not gonna ask you about your clients. Let's put it this way. Because
don't ask me about my clients. Yeah.
There's one thing that I think everybody in the audience will be very interested in hearing. You just hired a CTO.
Yes.
Big applause for that, because the fact 2021 she hired a CTO. Like, nobody's able to do that.
Yeah. Who was asking for a CTO?
Everybody is like asking for
CTO. Really, it's so hard. And I actually done it with the greatest help of one of our investors, who Alex knows well, without whom I wouldn't have been probably able to get such a nice CTO. I'm still like, okay, we haven't signed contracts yet, but he's working.
Then don't announce it because he's gonna call you tomorrow. It's like, you mentioned in the event, that's so in the press that you got a CTO.
No, it's especially hard, and actually what we've done, it was very difficult because we managed to close our first financial round, small one, humble one, without a CTO, which was unthinkable 2 years ago. And now we hired this CTO, which hopefully will help us to get to the next milestones, because the business development, we're getting well in there, but we needed that. We needed that so badly. We're super happy, very excited.
So basically the main learning was to leverage your networking in the investor's part.
Yeah.
And to get an actual CTO to be the investor, because he's a CTO. So CTOs know each other.
Yeah.
So we advise people here to get CTOs as investors, maybe just one.
Yeah, I mean, now it's very easy to say because we closed the financial round and I managed to get super nice investors. I would say nearly all of them are very nice, full of network, and what I always say, nice people. I always told you about that, Alex. I want to have good people by my side and by the side of my team. But yes, it was very important to leverage this. I have investors from the real estate, from marketplaces, from the technical side. But I must say that probably at the moment I was negotiating with investors, I wouldn't have taken any money. Yes, it's true. When you need the money, when you think you are not going to get the money, you take any money. Then it happens that when you see that there's the money there willing to work with you, and the investor and the money, then you start getting selective. I like you, I don't like you that much, or then, but only then. Before that, any money is good money.
Well, it takes, the first ones to kind of like open the gates, and then once it starts filling in, they can be like a little bit more selective. Like at the beginning, you have to have a, sort of like a half full room, so that it doesn't look empty to the new investors. Because like, there's nobody in the room. Why should I be the first one, right?
Yet we were super lucky because one of the first investors that trusted in me were some ex-founders that had done a big exit.
Yeah.
And then they gave us a convertible note, and so that we could get the first part to close the round. And they were already very nice people. They brought in some investors, and then you speak to people. But it was very funny because I struggled to close the financial round for months, for 4 months.
How long? No.
I would say 4 months, and I kind of closed it in a weekend. I was missing like 150,000 euros to close the financial round in 1 weekend. When I was already closing, I already had their money. When I was already closing, I was having a business meeting and say, no, because we are just closing the financial round. Oh, really? Really? I want to get in.
That happens a lot.
No, it's not possible. Now it's closed.
Here comes the actress, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And then they took the decision super fast and in over a weekend, I swear.
Because that happens a lot in the investment world. That's something
The famous FOMO.
Famous fear of missing out. It's like, you take your time evaluating your startup and whatnot, and then sometimes you receive an email from another investor who's like, dude, there's only 50K left for this one. You want to get in? It's like invite only. You need to tell me something wire the money today. And so they're like, the fuck, I'll just do it. Like, not 50K, I'm not that rich. But like, it's like, the fuck, sometimes you're impulsive. They play with that. So from the entrepreneur's side, you can also leverage this position. It's like, look, it's already committed. I have only 100 left. Maybe you want to have a little bit more around, a little bit over committed and everything. Right?
It's not easy. Yeah. Now it's easy to say from this side. And if I had to face another financial round, probably my attitude, since now it's also more, we are on a more comfy position as a business,
right,
would probably be very different. But when you are raising your first money, when sometimes you don't even trust on yourself, when sometimes things are not running the way you would like them to run, you have to. Sometimes I start with Sonia, like, wow, Sonia, I would say I think I'm not worth for this. I'm not worth. Yeah.
Do you have imposter syndrome sometimes?
Yeah, of course. Well, most of the time.
I have it every day, so we can talk about that.
Yeah, most of the time you're surrounded by super smart people, and you just are unsure if you fit there, honestly. And then sometimes you look and you think, wow, they are talking to me, sorry.
Like, for those who might not know, imposter syndrome is when you think you're not worth the position that you are in. So I don't know if somebody else has experienced that as an entrepreneur or. All right, raise your hands. Good. Not so much, Victor. Come on. Like you're honest. You know it. How did you overcome? How did you? Because I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, especially with now that I'm talking. Sometimes as an investor, it's like I'm not an investor. It's like, but I am. But like, I'm still struggling. I've been for years that I've been being the front person of my company as a CEO and as an investor. It's like that's something I cannot quite overcome. I've tried everything, but like, how are you dealing with it?
No, like you do, just keep on going. But I think it's nice, isn't it? I think the very moment that we don't have that syndrome, we will probably be so proud of ourselves, and we won't be humble anymore, and we won't be listening to people anymore, and we won't be learning anymore. So.
But some of the best entrepreneurs are really full of themselves. They have like a huge ass ego.
Yeah.
You see in pitching competitions, it's like,
and then it happens that when you are sitting with them or when you are listening at them at an event, you think, you're not that big thing,
All right.
But because you say that actively.
How did you? Something happened there.
Oh.
Who was that? That's actually beautiful. So that's creepy. I don't know what happened. Oh, the Chromecast. Maybe it just went on sleep. Anyways. No worries. I was going to say, like, how did you select your investors? Because you mentioned it very briefly, but sometimes you gotta do reference checking.
Yeah.
Sometimes, no, that's all right, just leave it. Yeah, thank you. Sometimes you do reference checking with investors, right? And like, you talk to the other companies that they have been invested by these investors and whatnot. What did you do in the process? Did you reference check me?
I already knew you.
All right, good.
I had already been in a startup, in one of those big startup grind event. I remember very well the Ola Luz CEO founder. It was great and very insightful and very inspiring. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next events. But yes, most of the time, actually there was a moment that I understood that I had to speak more to another founders, and that there was no shame in asking them if they trust on you, of course, and they believed in your idea, if there was a good relation, in asking them to get a word into the investors. And now actually I'm doing so with my investors in projects that I think that they're going to enjoy and they're going to get excited. Because since you make this switch from I'm asking for money to I'm giving an opportunity of an investor to get involved in the company. And it's not arrogant, it's just, hey, it's true that it's a commercial transaction. I bring in money, I'm going to give you returns, okay? Everybody understands that. But when there are investors like many of the ones I have right now, that they get enrolled in the business and you see that they enjoy, you reference them to another founders. And it's the same thing that some other founders did with me. Founders that I have a good relation and they trust in the job I'm doing, because otherwise they wouldn't do it, of course. They gave me warm intros. And sometimes you just Google, even sometimes Google, and I must say, for instance, in this sense, because I was saying earlier, no, because when you want money, you take any money, but it's not true. There were investors whose reputation was before them that I didn't approach. I never called.
Yeah.
I never got in touch with them. I never sent them my deck, our deck, because I didn't want them by my side, because I knew they were harming other projects. So it's true.
Correct. There are some investors that I see on the cap table and I'm not putting my money in there. So reputation is very, very important.
Yeah, that's true.
So, think of the financial rounds are a little bit like nightclubs, right? If it's empty, you just let a third of the people in for free, because they're going to be bringing the other people, right? And then the other people will start paying for the ticket, right? So when you said that, it kind of resonated with me, that thing is at the beginning you take any money, it might be good, but don't take too much of that any money. But as soon as other investors see that, 25% of the round is already committed, it's good. There's validation for the other investors.
There is a calling effect, yes.
Correct.
That the most difficult money is the first money to get.
Yeah.
The last one is easier. But now you were talking of allegories here.
Of what?
Of similarities.
Yeah.
There was a founder that I like him very much. It's called Jaume Major, that told me that talking to investor was like flirting.
All right.
Yeah. Flirting and having sex. It was super funny. One day I will explain you the full theory, but basically he said that you have to approach investors. That's probably because he's a guy. Huh? First, we're
gonna get censored by YouTube.
Yeah, because women, we don't have that problem. That's true also. But basically, you approach them. Hello, look what I'm doing. Do you like it? May I have your opinion? What do you think? I did that with you, for instance.
Right. Yeah.
I first approach you. Hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? What's your opinion? How can we improve it? And then sometime later, you approach them again. Hey, do you remember I told you this? Well, we did it, and we did this over. You get familiar with them because you're building a relationship with them. They're going to be in your company, hopefully for a long time. They're going to be your partners. So it's important that you get to know each other, how you are administrating the business. In this case, it's the most important thing. But building trust is super important.
Actually, Cristina Vila from Cledara, she says that fundraising is like a sales process, right?
Yeah.
And in which, I do sales for a living. So basically, what I have to work on every day is to keep relationships alive. Because it's not like now I'm talking to Paul to sell a project, but like I have to keep other people alive because maybe I don't get to sell this project. But I can, like, if you go desperate in the last minute to kind of like, I go to Victor now, like, oh, I need a project. And I was like, I don't need you. Like, oh, you call me now after 8 years we haven't talked, right? So how do you keep relationships alive? Like as a CEO, how do you distribute some part of your time to maintain the relationships?
I got professional.
All right.
I have a CRM for my investors.
Great.
They are in, sorry for that. I'm talking to one of my investors, but I have them in batches. And the ones that are business angels, ones that are early stage that I may need them at another moment, and I keep them posted more or less every 3 months of what we're doing. So we are at the top of their mind at any time. And because I used to have a spreadsheet, and then I was messing over everything. So now I have them in a separate CRM, and I have tasks, and I get tasks for sending many mails. If I told them that I have to send them an information, or if they ask me some insights about the market, I send them those insights about the market. They are my customers. So I work with the same diligence and the same organization I do with any other customer of my company. And that for me was the click. Actually, that's what took me to another level when I got professional in my relationship with not only investors, but potential investors, because my investors, I'm new. Actually, I'm still learning reporting. I was supposed, for example, by agreement, I'm supposed to report them every 6 months. But then I told them, no, don't worry, I will report you every 3 months. And guess what? They are asking me to report them every month. Huh? And say, well, no problem, I can drop you a line or two, you're my partner. But because otherwise they feel lonely and they want to know about you and the company. It's normal, it's their money.
But it's funny how investors, they're famous for not working, but they get thousands of reports. I mean, not thousands, but I get dozens of reports. If you got 20, 60 investments, it's like, they have to read a lot, actually.
But that's what I thought, that they wouldn't care. Actually, and what it's curious about is that the ones that are asking me for a monthly report, means maybe 3 lines, I'm trying to get what they need, are the ones that are having a lot of investments.
All right, you mean they are the most involved?
Yeah.
The most responsive? Yeah.
On the other hand, there are kinds and kinds of investors. There are investors that they will give you only money and they want to get the return out of the money. And there are investors that really want to push with you in the business. And then if you keep them updated of what you're doing and you ask for help, let's say, or what your issues are at the business right now, maybe they can help you with. This is something I'm learning right now, because I've been only 3 months, 4 months since I got all the investors pool, and I saw them in July. The event you couldn't come, and I'm learning. There I'm learning. I not can still explain you much about it.
Well, let's go to the final section of the fireside chat. It's kind of like a fire quick question. So try to give me very concise answers.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So what's been your best day in the office?
Few months ago, when I looked at the team and I found out that we were 10 people.
Nice. That's.
I couldn't have ever believed that I was providing job to so many people. It was very nice.
You're going to be provided to 100 very soon.
Hopefully.
What's been your worst day? I mean, since the project kind of like restarted.
Yeah.
Business-wise, yeah.
Yes, of course. Any time, very, very few months ago, when we were supposed to be accepted in a fintech program with the greatest bank in Spain, and then after a lot of work, a lot of interviews, after placing their properties in our marketplace, they come with a short meeting of 10 minutes like, we thought over again, we are going to exclude you. That was, we felt very down, because every time you hit a milestone, you celebrate it with the team, and at that moment it's difficult.
What's your style in communicating bad news to the team?
I'm just straight away to the point. I'm very, very honest.
Can you explain the story behind the yellow jacket?
It's my favorite color.
too much.
and fits me nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's terrible
But
because
it's not the same. Right?
no, it's not
That's
the
not-
same. But you know what? This shirt I've only worn it that time, and I cannot wear it in my free time because since this picture is everywhere, because I don't have more pictures, ironically, I feel like I wear it every day. So.
Yeah.
But I do it in purpose. Now I have loads of yellow garments, so when I go to an event, I dress in yellow and people spot me in the room.
You're based in Mataró,
Yeah.
and they're sort of like the underdog living next to Barcelona when it comes to startups, because a lot of startups come from there. Like there's Ofertia, and there's a few other like famous people from
Habitaglia,
Italia, like Cristian Rodriguez from by ours is from Mataró.
Escolta.
So I think one of the guys from Northwick, I think he's also from Mataró. So it's like a lot of people are from there. Then it's like Nacho Vidal. I'm not gonna go into that. Sergio Dalma, I think he's also from Mataró.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah.
No. Pérez.
Pérez.
That's from Mataró.
And I think one of the also Spanish female singers, I don't know, like, well, anyways, let's get why are you still based there? Like, what kept you in Mataró?
Because family life, and because now my team is from the area, we are comfortable, it's cheaper, we can now work from home, so those talents that are not from Mataró, they can work from home. And you know what, I get in 15 minutes by bike to work. I can sometimes even have lunch with my children. So in the
Wow.
very moment I have money to pay a house with swimming pool by somewhere here at 22, maybe I move, but for now we're fine there. We have the sea close, it's nice. It's true that sometimes you miss the sauce of
Yeah,
the startup
secret sauce.
life, but we're very comfortable in there. We're not planning living soon.
Perfect. And sort of like not the last one, but like, I think this is very insightful, but if you could go back to see yourself in your first day at Inviertis, what kind of piece of advice would you give yourself? Day one of Inviertis.
Spend more money.
Spend more money.
Spend more money,
For
going
what?
faster. I was very conservative and I am super mean with money. So
We're Catalan, so.
and we are still very cost efficient, and I just can't understand why things cost so much money. Every time I speak to the marketing girl, I get sick. I guess everything is so expensive. The rate is
So
expensive. Advertising is expensive. But it's true that when you do little investment in core areas, for example, in marketing, or when I did my first development, okay, it was an MVP, you grow slow. Organic growth, it's very, very difficult. And sometimes you have to take brave decisions and spend money you don't even have. Actually, we didn't take the first loan for the company until the first day of lockdown. So we got locked down on a Friday, and then that weekend over, I decided that we had to change our strategy. I called the bank and said, "You told me you could give me 30,000, right?" Say, "Yeah, okay. Give me."
Yeah.
And on a Monday, I went to the public notary where it was working at the streets. You may remember that moment. And I went to the public notary to sign that.
Wow.
And I regret of not doing that earlier, of not having done that earlier.
How can we help you from Start Brand and our amazing attendees and community worldwide?
Spreading the word is super important. Obviously, getting to know the project, and we are always looking forward to get talented people into the team.
And the last one, and this is a signature question of Start Brand in Barcelona. Hope you have prepared for that one. What is your useless superpower? Everybody gets a useless
My
superpower.
useless superpower is that I kept the house ultra clean, ultra organized right before traveling.
All right. This is a really good one. Big applause for Rebecca.